Road Gang Radio. We've talked about making a living. Now let's get a life. It's Jimmy Mack and Lindsay Lawler with the best stories, the ultimate road trip, the concert of a lifetime, and a home when you're not at home. The wheels have come off, but we're still rolling.
2 female authors on the show today, and actually the first one is talking about several other females herself that are featured in this book. Where we're going to be breaking Judy's first. Her book Radical Sisters, and it breaks down the stories. She really dives into both Shirley Temple Black, Rose Kushner, and Evelyn Lauder, and the dawn of the breast cancer movement. And some of you may be listening and being like, why are we talking about women and breast cancer? This is a male-focused show. Well, you know what? You all have moms, sisters, aunts, girlfriends, friends that are girls. And this was the breast cancer, because Shirley, she talks about it in this book. Shirley Temple it wasn't being talked about. When Shirley was diagnosed, you weren't talking about that openly. And Shirley changed the game by openly saying, I have this, we're going to get through it. You probably have it too, and you've been suffering alone, and I'm here to tell you you're not alone anymore. So that is why we're having authors like this on this show, so you drivers out there can know how to support the women in your life. Right, Jimmy Mack?
By the way, Shirley Temple changed the game. Think about the lives that have been saved. Absolutely, because of Shirley Temple's courage to speak truth.
Speak truth. That's what we do on Road Gang Radio, Jimmy Mack.
We do. We do it because of our friends at Truck Down as well, Lindsay. You got to get up. You got to get up.
You got to get up and Truck Down. Judy Pearson joining us next. Go. Don't go away. That'd be a bad idea.
Exceptional value and exceptional values. That's Bennett Trucking. A core commitment of faith, family, and freedom has driven Bennett to being the leading provider of innovative, integrated transportation solutions, both at home and abroad. Bennett's values are not just compatible with providing high-paying jobs and unmatched customer service. They're inseparable. If you're looking for an employer or a partner who believes the best business model is being a model citizen, then Bennett Trucking is the place for you. Go to BennettIG.com and find the folks who share your values.
Sapp Brothers appreciate you. That coffee pot is a promise of customer service that aligns with their values. And those folks are showing what they think of you for National Driver Appreciation Week by celebrating all September with scratch and win games, prize giveaways like Yeti coolers and UFC tickets, not to mention 10 full sets of steer tires with any PM service or 250 shop spend, all in the app. Download the app and be a part of a generous rewards program for professional drivers. $2 all-you-can-eat pancakes, steak specials, and cookouts and celebrations. Sapp Brothers serves professional truck drivers. First-rate travel centers, family-friendly restaurants, and world-class maintenance. It's a promise that the coffee pot, is there for you. Go to sappbros.net and find the values you expect from home and download the Sapp app.
We're going where you want to go, so you can be where you need to be. It's Road Gang Radio with Lindsay Lawler and Jimmy Mack on RadioNemo.com.
Amen, and we're live from Fastport Studios because Lindsay, Jimmy, y'all are here, and I'm here, and we're happy to be here.
We're here. We're together. We're doing it, guys. We're doing it. Once again, continuing on. And as we mentioned before the break, a really powerful, badass, smart, vibrant, world-changing woman is joining us next, and I am so excited to dive into this conversation. Jimmy, tell us a little bit about this beautiful next guest.
Her favorite title, by the way, is storyteller with a little research junkie thrown in. Those characteristics have resulted in 6 biographies, including award winners and a bestseller, by the way. Judith, Judy Pearson is a best-selling author and an accomplished presenter and a graduate of Michigan State University, which means she's a Spartan. She's an accomplished presenter, and she's turned her book subjects into presentations that have been viewed by thousands across the U.S. and in the U.K. Named one of Chicago's most inspirational women. By the way, that's a city with big shoulders, which means this is a big heart we're talking to. Selected as a finalist for the Arizona Healthcare Leadership Awards and named a Phoenix Healthcare Hero. Judy and her husband, they reside in Florida's beautiful Gulf Coast, where Long Beach walks ignite her creativity. It is our absolute pleasure to welcome to the show the author of Radical Sisters, Judy Pearson. Good morning and welcome aboard.
Good morning. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
Well, you lived it. We just said it. Welcome aboard. Thank you for being here.
Judy, so looking forward to talking to you. I was so inspired and also just in awe of these women going through this book and, thinking I didn't know what I didn't know. You think you know something about someone and then you find out 10 more things, especially when it comes to public figures. And particularly with Shirley Temple Black, I was so inspired by her story. But before we dive into it, I want to ask you, because the vast majority of our listenership here are over-the-road truck drivers, a lot of men, and, but they all have wives and mothers and sisters or daughters who are touched by breast cancer, or could be, that is the potential in their life. So can you just touch on why it's important for everyone, men included, to understand this history?
Absolutely. And before I do that, let me just say, when I was on the show several years back with the publication of another book, right after that, I got an email from a trucker who wanted to know when that book would be out in audio, because he wanted to listen to it because his wife was a survivor and he wanted to know how to best help her. And I thought that was just the most precious thing ever. So yes, we're going to talk about boobs because they're important. So the statistics are that 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer, although a small number of men get it as well. And it's this strange disease that is terrifying, but it also not only threatens your life, but for many women, threatens their womanhood. Breasts are so adored, but then sometimes they're ignored when we should be paying attention when they get sick. And so it really eats away at a woman's psyche and a woman's confidence as a woman. They're like the ultimate symbol of motherhood and womanhood.
Yeah. Wow. And then just to touch real quick, Jim, sorry, just kind of to go one step further on that. A lot of our listeners spend these long stretches on the road, which is also an isolating thing. But to your point, the drivers listening, figuring out how does this relate to me? I mean, your work shows how much strength people find in community. So, what would you say in the trucking world? What is another takeaway from these stories that these women, about sticking together and not going at it alone? I think that's really important on multiple levels here.
Absolutely. And I, for quite a number of years, have talked about creating a second act after a life challenge. Mine happened to be cancer, but we all have life challenges, and finding a way to use that struggle, finding treasure in that wreckage to help others in some way is important. So I doubt there's not a person listening who hasn't had a life challenge who could apply that.
I wanted to kind of dive into the book as a transition from what you guys are talking about, because it feels like at activism's core, anyone who becomes an activist, who becomes an active spokesperson for a cause, has a moment where they say to themselves, that's enough. That's enough of the way we've been doing things. That's enough of the way the world is heading. And if not me, then who? In regards to the 3 women you look at in particular in this book, can you talk about their tipping point? Because it's one thing to kind of be, actively involved in making sure that you explore all the options for your own personal health. But there's also another moment that so many people who are activists, Shirley Temple Black comes to mind here too, where you say it's not just enough that I don't go through this again, but that other people don't actually have the experiences that I have. Can you talk about the tipping point? And along with Shirley Temple Black, can you talk about the other women that are at the core of this book?
Absolutely. And Shirley actually was a little bit of a radical sister even before breast cancer, because she wanted to break into politics, and the media just couldn't let go of the fact that she was this child star and they couldn't see her as anything else. But then when she went public with her breast cancer diagnosis, all of a sudden everybody felt like America had suddenly been diagnosed and operated on for breast cancer. And from Shirley's point of view, she found the lump herself doing a self-exam. And in 1972, that was a really rare thing. So that was the thing she wanted to encourage women to do. No, don't sit home and be afraid and worry about how awful something might be. Go get it looked after. And she, along with Evelyn Lauder, enjoyed position and wealth, and that gave them voices to do a little bit more directing in their medical procedures. At the time, a woman would go into the hospital for a biopsy because it was a hospital procedure, and if they found cancer, they never woke her up. They just amputated her breast, and so she wasn't psychologically prepared for it. So Shirley was the first one who said, we're not doing that anymore. But then came Rose Kushner, who was a journalist living in, and a mother and wife living in Maryland, and just trying to break into journalism. And when she discovered her lump, she said, there's no way anyone is doing that to me. That was her tipping point. And with her self-described stubborn streak and loud voice, she pounded the drum until she got those kinds of treatment protocols changed. And then Evelyn Lauder was diagnosed in 1988. And after a year's worth of treatment and recovery, she realized the paltry amount of money that was going toward breast cancer research, and so created the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. But then on the heels of that, she also realized there wasn't enough awareness of breast cancer and women taking care of themselves. And we toss that word around a lot these days, and everybody gets really tired of Pinktober. But in 1992, no one was talking about breast cancer. So she, with a good friend, was the co-creator of the Pink Ribbon, which, of course, brought lots of awareness.
I was so shocked. Honestly, I was really shocked reading through this, and it was, 44 years old, I think, when Shirley was diagnosed, when, as you just talked about, it wasn't openly talked about, and her public disclosure really being that significant milestone and improving the awareness. But I'm so, the stigma around things, I feel like the more we talk about things openly, the less that thing can be a thing, the more it stands to, cease to exist. It's like, so when you say, yeah, we get annoyed with Pink October and the pink ribbons and the football players are wearing, it's like overkill, but it's like, that's kind of the only way that it makes change. It has to be so annoying that you don't want to deal with it anymore, that you find a way to get past it. Is that kind of the basicness around this, and kind of what Shirley was the catalyst for?
I think so. And the thing, Lindsay, you have to remember, too, is in 1972, a great many people still thought cancer was contagious, which, of course, we laugh at today.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
cancer survivors, I know, right? Cancer survivors were treated like lepers. No one wanted to invite them over. You couldn't adopt children. You couldn't join the military. You could be fired. You couldn't get insurance. I mean, it was this ridiculous list of things you now had thrust upon you that you weren't expecting. And so talking about things, you're right, not only brings awareness on that level, but also the importance that, hey, in Shirley's day, it is survivable. And today, the more we highlight people who either have no evidence of disease or are living with their cancer, but living well, then the less amount of fear there is, and the more willing people will be to get themselves checked. Because there are still people today who are so terrified of cancer, they don't want to do any of the basic screening. And it makes me so sad.
This is really a great story at its core, too, because in many ways, you couldn't have drawn it up better from Temple's perspective as a Hollywood tale. You have a terrific spokesperson, a courageous spokesperson, a crackerjack writer, and somebody who is able to actually have access to finance and capital, who understands. I mean, they're all three of them in many ways great businesswomen. But at the core of this is you have a component that you couldn't ask for three better people to kind of call attention to what is going on here, because when you get to Lauder, you now have access to capital. You now have somebody who knows how to put the elbow on people to raise money. You have somebody with political connections, someone with finance connections, and someone who has the pulpit of simply being able to write and kind of tell the story in media. So it really is kind of a trifecta of amazing women kind of uniquely positioned to tell the story that you end up telling, correct?
It absolutely is. And Jimmy Mack, if I can just tell you how the sausage is made from a publication standpoint. So my original idea was to write about Rose Kushner. And my darling editor and wonderful agent said, look, she's a great woman, but it would be a richer story and it would attract more attention if we could add some people who were known. So they put their heads together and they came back to me and said, okay, what if you added Shirley Temple and Evelyn Lauder? And I got to say, I dug my heels in for about a minute, and then I said, okay. And at the end of it all, they were so right. These three women never met, Shirley, Rose, and Evelyn. They never met. I'm sure they were aware of one another, but their stories just sort of flow one to another as their diagnoses and their work kind of take the reader through the 70s, 80s, and 90s as breast cancer and the breast cancer movement were becoming a thing. So a lot of people think writers just sit around and come up with an idea and everybody's like, oh, hail the author. It doesn't always work that way.
Well, and it's to me, it's so interesting. We love how the sausage is made around here, by the way. Jim and I talk about it all the time.
It's our bag.
We want to know how the sausage is made. We want to know origin stories. We want to know everybody, like the becoming of somebody, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything in between. And so, you've written about spies and POWs and philanthropists and now activists. With all that said, do you see a common thread between all your subjects? Something, courage and human spirit. There's got to be a driving force that makes somebody be the one that stands out, be the one that, as Michael Jackson would make that change, man in the mirror. Do you see kind of a common thread between your subjects?
I do. There's a wonderful quote. My mind's just gone blank. But anyway, she said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And the point of that is that very often the most courageous, the most profound, the hardest workers are just ordinary people. They're not celebrities. They're not rich. So that's one of the messages. And then the other message is even the famous and the rich are only human. And they too are susceptible to illness and disappointment and death, things we don't like to think about, but they're just human. And so you're absolutely right, Lindsay. My stories are usually of ordinary people who've done extraordinary things. And I really love that. It makes every day when I sit down at my desk, I just can't wait to get started.
I love that. And the quote, it's a wonderful quote. It's Margaret Mead who said it, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, it just reminds us. I say all the time on this show that when people are like, how would I change the world? And you do by dealing with your own stuff, being a better person, evolving in your own right so that others around you hopefully are inspired. But that's not even the reason you do it. You do it because you want to be a better person for yourself, both the health, physical, spiritually, all of it. So anyway, great quote. Thank you for sharing, Jim.
I wanted also to ask you, Judy, there's always a moment when people are doing research on a subject, and they might know the subject inside and out sometimes. Sometimes the research is a process of discovery where they're kind of learning new things. Each of these women is an extraordinary figure in their own right, and you are right. Kushner could very easily have had a biography simply about her. each one of these is worthy of their own story. Was there a moment for each one in particular, even given what you knew and what you'd come to expect from them, where their courage took your breath away, where even in the process of writing, because there were some great moments here that I could point to myself, but where you can say, like, in discovering this, I just was in awe, given the time period and the frame of the world around them, that they chose to make these decisions?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, which I find really interesting because it really has nothing to do with cancer, and I'm not giving the book away because I talk about it in the first chapter, is that all three of these women nearly died long before they were diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
The universe, God, whatever your belief system is, spared them because they had something else to do. And so I had no idea. I mean, no one knows that Shirley Temple was almost assassinated at the age of 12. And so I find that really remarkable. But I think it kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the second act thing. Although I have long felt that I'm 14 years out of my own diagnosis and treatment, and I've long thought about the importance of that, but I keep getting gratified every time I write about someone who experiences something and just says, I am not going to let this stop me. And we don't often think about that, again, celebrities in particular, but I think that's just such a lesson. And I was very blessed to have Rose's children, who are, of course, grown, and one of Evelyn's sons to help me greatly. It was wonderful. Another funny sausage story, I actually contacted Shirley Temple's son, and he was like, this sounds like a great idea, but my mom only published half of her biography. We have the other half we want to publish, and we can't keep giving away her stories. So respectfully, no, I won't help you, but good luck. And I was like, okay. And Shirley actually, did her thing with her press conference and a big article in the Calls magazine a few months later, and then an appearance on the Mike Douglas show. And then she was done with breast cancer. She went back to serving the public, but she did what she needed to do. And I think that's always important too, is like Kenny Rogers used to say, know when to
hold them,
know
when to fold them.
Thank you. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Apparently I need more to eat this morning or drink or something. But they each knew that as well. And I think that's really good.
You mentioned that no one knows about the Shirley almost being assassinated at 12. I didn't know about it. When I read that story in your book about how it happened and the why behind it, which actually I would, if you wouldn't mind just alluding to it, it's one story and a million stories of reasons why you need to read this book. But what it made me think about real quick, Judy, was just the idea of like, we have to go live our life. We can plan for the worst or the best or whatever. But we have when it's our time, it's our time, and when it's not our time, and in regards to these women, it was not their time. They kept keeping on. But there's just strange stuff that happens in the world that we have no control over, like the woman that tried to assassinate Shirley Temple.
Exactly. And her thinking was that on the day that Shirley was born, this woman, on the day Shirley was born, her own baby died. So she had it in her mind that Shirley had stolen her baby's spirit or soul, and that soul could not be released unless Shirley died. And of course, that's clearly an indication of mental illness, which we also tend to think as something new in the world. It's not at all, sadly. Mm-hmm. And so I thought it was just fascinating. And Shirley was standing alone on stage with a mic stand and had nothing to hide behind. And the woman was in the third or fourth row and pulled a gun out of her bag and aimed it at Shirley, and for whatever reason, never pulled the trigger. And Shirley said, it's mine to wonder and mine to be grateful for.
I don't know if you know this, Lindsay. and by the way, one of the craziest stories about Shirley Temple I ever heard was, that the Vatican actually sent over an investigator to make sure that she actually was a child, because she was accused in the early part of her career of being an adult, of literally being
a little person.
Yeah, being the evil character from Orphan, that movie. But each one of these
people thought it, right, because she never had lost her teeth.
Oh, it's crazy.
And they're like, how is a child not losing teeth? They're like, they're hiding it. It's TV. Come on.
Yeah,
Right,
they're making movies. But each one of these women has these remarkable stories too. I mean, we talk about one of them. One of them basically escapes the Holocaust by the skin of their teeth. These are all women who were used to being in the arena, and anybody who's a reporter as well too knows what it's like to get the hell kicked out of you. But all of these people, all of these women also had been in the arena and knew what it was like to take a beating. So standing up for this cause must have seemed to them like, I've done this before, I know the way out. I mean, that really is, their lives were not like surprising that they did this, because if you really track their lives, they've been headed for this destination all along. Is that fair?
Absolutely, I think it's fair. I absolutely think so. Again, I live my world by quotes, and there's one of them at the end of the first chapter that alludes to this, that, if you were spared, it's because there's something else in the world for you to do. And I think that's 100% the case. My own breast cancer was discovered 2 months after a clean mammogram, and I was just scratching my cleavage and found this lump. And when they did my mastectomy, my breast was full of cancer that couldn't be seen because I have dense tissue. So, gentlemen who are driving and listening, when your wives and sweethearts get mammograms, make sure it says on the letter anything at all about dense tissue. And they can ask, do I have dense tissue? Because mammography can't see through dense tissue very well. An ultrasound is the diagnostic tool for that. And pretty much I think it's nationwide now, with a state-by-state mandate that it has to be on there if you have dense tissue, when you get that happy gram each year. So, but that's a really good lesson.
Well, and I think men can encourage their women, because that's not something, men don't have to go get mammograms every year. We do. It's not a fun thing. It's putting your boob being squashed like a pancake into a contraption. It's not fun, but it's not that big a deal. It's not as bad as some people make it out to be. But I think but it's on us. We have to own that. We have to go every year. But I think something that your partner, if you're with a male, to me, it's something that maybe men, put it on your calendar once a year, to a reminder in your phone. Just say to your wife, your girlfriend, the women in your life, hey, have you gotten your mammogram this year? I care about you, and I want to make sure you've done it. I think that's something that'd be really important. Yes, Jim?
I was going to say, hey, wives, tell your husbands to check your butt.
Yep.
Women, tell your husbands, tell your wives to check the boob. Check the boob and the butt. Do that. Take care of that once a year.
How's your butt? How's your boob? Listen, it's actually more romantic than you think. It means I want you here for a long time. I actually like you.
I like you.
Well, when I tell the story about my clean mammogram letter and finding my own lump, I always say I was a newlywed, and I asked my new husband to feel it, because men will feel your boobs if you ask them to.
Yeah, they will.
True story.
Yeah, they will. It doesn't take much. So
I keep thinking about my wife running out into the living room going, would you feel this for a second here? Okay. I'm here for you.
Yeah, men don't even they don't even know what you've asked to feel. They just say yes.
Happy to help.
Whatever it is. Yeah, happy to help. Whatever it is. I'm on it. Everybody head over to JudithLPearson.com. That's Judith L. Pearson, Pearson.com. Several books that this incredible woman has written. The newest is Radical Sisters, Shirley Temple Black, Rose Kushner, and Evelyn Lauder, and the Dawn of the Breast Cancer Movement. As Jim always wants to know, Judy, the light of our life, what are you working on next?
I am working on the story that has nothing to do with medicine or cancer, the story of an incredible woman who made a world of difference for 1950s women and beyond. It was the forgotten decade. We had Rosie the Riveter in the 40s and all of the marching women of the 60s, but the 50s are a forgotten decade. So that's where I'm digging in.
Oh, a little David Habelsham for the female set. Nicely done, by the way. That's kind of
there you go. She's
kinda,
a businesswoman. It's going to rock your socks.
I also wanted to add on just a personal level, like I said, this is a book that I would recommend not just to the ladies out there, but to the men in particular. Like I said, you need to understand the kind of courage people often have to talk to you about what's going on with their bodies and to be open to listen as opposed to kind of, instruct or, give actionable things. Just listen. When the people in your life who love you talk about how their bodies are kind of functioning, take the time to listen. Sometimes allowing them to simply articulate that can allow them to figure out what's going on. And I think this book in many ways encourages men in particular, as Lindsay was saying, to kind of be open when the people you love come to you and want to have these conversations and not shy away from it. Because I think the ultimate thing in this book is these three women coming forward and saying, everybody's got to start talking about this. This is not going to go away until everybody starts talking about this. Thank you for that, Judy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you both so much. This has been such fun.
JudithLPearson.com. Judith, please come back anytime. Judith, Judy, all of the names, but one wonderful woman
Judy.
anytime. Just Judy.
Okay.
When your next work is out, we would love to have you back. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you so much, guys.